Welcome back, bigots. As it turns out, I felt compelled to discuss the fairly recent article from Mr. Henley because of the disingenuous framing of his recent article. The article in question is titled, "Gaming Cannot Allow Pragmata's Diana Fan Club to Flourish." The first paragraph starts off with this. "I don't really mind people finding video game characters attractive. If I did mind, it would be hypocritical. Well, now I'd like to stop you right there. I can't call you a hypocrite as of yet, but what I can call you is inconsistent. I can say that because in one of your previous articles, you wrote, 'Why is Stellar Blade's character model causing controversy?' in which Henley said, 'I'll be back here in a few months discussing how Stellar Blade feels like a dated step backwards in its depiction of women.' Mr. Henley frames what we have had in media for decades, that being high beauty standards in fiction, which must be reimagined as a step backwards because of all of the progress the liberal Marxists have made over the years. But I digress. Let's continue on with the article. You could argue that weird attitudes towards characters are more frequent in video games, but that might just be that you have a greater interest in video games, and therefore see more of it. You could also argue that it tends to be a bigger deal in video games, where the culture war is incessant. Gee, I wonder whose fault that is. But I digress again. And where the fictional hyper-design nature of character models, that being attractive models generally speaking, tends to be seen as a win or loss for each side of this entirely imagined divide. Entirely imagined divide, he says. Right. The hubris. Again, continuing with the article, the issue becomes when this is the primary reason for playing, which quickly becomes a toxic tar pit wherein you start to convince yourself that this is the only reason games should exist. No, Mr. Henley, the issue is that your ilk has complained quite loudly and incessantly to change what we already liked about gaming to fit your political ideology. Even though you fully understand you are the minority in this, and I'm using air quotes here, conversation, end quote, you still frame these situations as gamers being the antagonists. That's a problem. Again, more digression. Continuing with the article. It's all a bit silly when it's framed like that, but it becomes more serious when these sorts of attitudes pervade popular gaming discourse. You know what's involved in popular gaming discourse, Mr. Henley? If we're going to be talking about Capcom, I shall remind you of Capcom's recent poll, where it, with a surprise to no one, 82% of men are involved in gaming. Now, this is just a Capcom poll. I'm sure that number would be much higher if there was a more broader poll. But again, 82%, Mr. Henley. 82%. And let's not forget the other screenshot, where the world found that exhilarating gameplay being number one, but quickly behind it was unique and attractive characters. It's still very important around the world. And in Japan, again, where Capcom is from, unique and attractive characters is number one. Fascinating, isn't it, Mr. Henley? Let's continue on with the article. What has struck me the most with this is the boldness of it all. I'm not so naive as to be shocked by some of this behavior. The hubris of this boy. Nor am I ignorant of the fact that there are some bad people in bad corners of the internet. Mr. Henley, you are the bad people in bad corners of the internet. Continuing, but that's just it. They aren't in corners anymore. You're absolutely right, Mr. Henley. You're out in the open. It feels like Pragmata signals a normalization of this approach to gaming where everything exists to be sexualized, and anything that cannot be sexualized is acting in service of a nefarious agenda to fundamentally shift society towards wokeness. My, oh my, Mr. Henley. Are we going to ignore all of the changes to sex, male and female, converted to body type. Are we going to ignore that? Are we going to ignore the intentional uglification of female characters in games? Are we going to ignore that? Are we also going to ignore the prevalent anti-heterosexual slant in media these days? Are we going to ignore that? Are we going to ignore that, Mr. Henley? Yeah, shift society towards wokeness. Oh, man. If the gaslighting had a face, it would be Mr. Henley. But let's talk about the situation at hand here, Mr. Henley. The situation here is Capcom and Diana within Pragmata. I submit to my dear viewer, Pirate Nation, once again. As Pirate Nation stated, Capcom blocked a user named 𝐚𝐦𝐼𝐧𝐝 after publicly criticized the more modest final design of Diana in Pragmata. That sounds interesting. Calling the changes censored. Pragmata features a childlike android, Diana, as a protagonist, and the outfit got some adjustments. The user's X account, that being 𝐚𝐦𝐼𝐧𝐝, was suspended shortly afterwards. So let's take a look at some of the screenshots within that quote. Here, 𝐚𝐦𝐼𝐧𝐝 says, the official Pragmata account has blocked me for making a post calling out Diana's censored design. Censored design? Well, let's check out that censored design, shall we? In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see what he did, he being 𝐚𝐴𝐴𝐵. He did that. On the right is the official Capcom Pragmata design. So it's censored for a reason. So people can't be perverts within the game. So Capcom, as the evidence shows, has done no wrong. So I don't really see Mr. Henley's problem here. Well, let's continue on with the final paragraph of Mr. Henley. I have not yet played Pragmata, surprise. And that's because I'm a little tapped out on stories when men adopt daughter-like figures and prove their masculinity by protecting them. What? I'm sorry. Tapped out? How many games like this are there? In my honest personal, my own memory, all I know is The Last of Us 1, Pragmata, maybe a little bit in The Walking Dead with Clementine and her father. That's the only father-daughter duo that I can recall off the top of my head. If there's more, please tell me in the comment section, please. I honestly want to know. But being tapped out because of 2 games within like the recent 8 years or a decade, I mean that's kind of a stretch. You're already tapped out because of one example recently. The last one was, gosh, how long ago was Last of Us? What was that, like 8 years ago? Anyway, I digress. Let's just wrap things up here, because this article is ridiculous. So let's just conclude here. I'll just read my closing statement here. There is nothing wrong with what Capcom has done with Pragmata. There's nothing wrong with men being happy to play a man protecting a child. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with gamers sharing their excitement to play a game about protecting a child. All of those things are normal, totally normal. However, there is a problem, and I should say I have a problem, with people having a problem with everything I have just stated. Capcom themselves censored Diana for obvious reasons. Perverts decided to sexualize Diana, which most gamers are opposed to, especially gamers like myself. And ideologically inconsistent, power-hungry narcissists hate that we're winning this culture war. A culture war they will start pretending never existed to begin with once our victory is assured. Believe me, the gaslighting will only continue until their morale improves. Which is a shame. It's a shame because shame is so much easier to handle if you can gaslight yourself into believing the reason for your shame never existed. That's about all the time I have for this video. Do all the happy, fun social stuff. You can find me on Gab, X, Odyssey, and of course, on YouTube. Until next time, have fun.